How's it going, Jim here? Getting back to the Chevy transmission, Saginaw, to a Ford small block Windsor engine, going into a Miata. This is the last video on putting the transmission components back together. The transmission is now all rebuilt. I did not do a video on the rebuilding process, but I'm going to tell you right now, not one part was hit with a hammer, pliers, or anything of that type. I use a shop press, the proper snap ring pliers and transmission tools to put these back together. The shifter is an aftermarket Summit 4-speed shifter. They're very low quality, so I had to go through that shifter to fix the mistakes that people had made to it. In the end, I don't know how long that shifter is going to last, but it works. I had to machine a couple of parts to fix that. So I will be in a later date on the hunt for an original Hurst shifter, or I'm going to have to spend the money and get a brand new one from Hurst, because the quality and material is, thickness of material is superior when it comes to Hurst shifters and aftermarket crap. The material on this is very, very low quality, but it works good on the transmission at this time. Once I stop banging gears, and we'll go from there. This is the bell housing now fit onto the transmission, so I'm going to show you that. And end of story. You're going to get to see the rest of the install of this transmission going on to that Windsor engine, and vice versa. I'm going to do a video on installing the clutch, the throwout fork or lever, cable actuated, because I have not decided which one I want. Originally in the Miata it is a hydraulic bearing. I do already have the provisions for the hydraulic system, but I think I'm going to use a cable or a fork style, because that's what I did in the other vehicle, and it seems to be pretty nice, and it's smooth and it doesn't hurt your knee or anything like that. So it's very, very low tension on it. So let's see what the front snout and everything looks like in this. Okay, we're getting close here, getting very close to getting things bolted together. Okay, that right there is a 10 spline, 10.5 inch race clutch that fits a Chevy. I paid $50 for a pair of these. Now these have been lightened. This one's in pretty good shape, as the other one seems to work pretty good. So there's that billet throwout bearing right there. That right there, my friend, is the 4-speed Chevy truck front snout bearing retainer, machined down to fit a quartermaster bell housing. And now I put a billet fork style throwout bearing on it, and it's butter. The pivot is factory from Quartermaster. All I have to do is get my fork in there, put the new rubber boot, and it's end of story. I will put my clutch back on here for safekeeping, because I don't want it to, you know, first you have to go into, that's better, end of story. Okay, so I used, somebody had already had this Ford bell housing bolted to a Chevy Muncie Saginaw transmission, so I didn't have to do anything to the upper ear on the transmission, which is a Saginaw. I have already 7/16 high grade, what are these, 190,000 PSI rated bolts, Allen bolts. And I needed to get some new 1.5" 7/16 hardware, grade 8, of course, with locking nuts for the bell housing to the engine. I have a standard Chevy single pin motor mount, which is a rubber. So in the Miata, the only thing I have to do is basically drop this baby in there once it's bolted together. I have a little bottle jack about yay big that I use all the time for doing this with several different engine swaps. And I go underneath it, slide right underneath there real quick. You don't want this car up in the air. I pick the car up only about a foot or so. I crawl underneath there. I put the bottle jack underneath the back of the transmission, and I lift this baby up until the engine pitch is right around 4.5, 5 degrees. And that means the transmission and shifter is perfectly level into the tunnel. And then I just basically put my cross member that I custom make. It's out of 2 by 1 inch heavy wall square stock with a 1/2 inch or 3/8 mounting plate that it's welded onto the tab, and basically this baby bolts right into it, and the engine swap is pretty much done. It only takes about a day, maybe 2 days, depending on how fast you are. It takes me about 8 hours to do the whole thing, plus or minus. Sometimes quicker. This one's going to be a little bit quicker because it's only 4 bolts, 2 on each side, and a single bolt for the transmission. That's about it. So I'm rambling on. End of story. So the only thing I have left to do is on this custom Chevy Ford application, is I have to talk about the starter and a little tiny belly pan. You can see this, these are quarter 20 bolts, and the belly pan is very, very little. This quartermaster bell housing fits. It fits all standard Ford starters. Unfortunately, only one will work. And I found that the hard way. I had purchased 2 starters. I bought a factory 5 Ford transmission starter, blah, blah, blah. They all fit, right? It says listed 302, 5.0, 351, yada, yada, yada. It will not fit this quartermaster. You have to get a high torque billet starter for this. And don't fret it. They're only $97 if you look around. I put one on my 49 Ford, and I only paid like 85 bucks for that one, brand new. It's billet. It's a high torque mini starter. I'm not sure if you can get one off the shelf around in these parts in Connecticut and Mass. I had to order it from, I think it came out of Tennessee or something like that. But anyways, you slap that baby on there, and there's provisions where you can rotate it or choose where you want your solenoid to end up. In other words, the billet mounting plate that goes onto the quartermaster unbolts the starter, and you can rotate those 180 degrees left or right. And what that does is that moves the solenoid on the starter away from the engine and away from the headers. So I actually rotated mine, I believe it was like 60 degrees or 80 degrees, something like that. So it's basically 2 holes forward or to the right side of the engine. So I got it away from the header. And that's it. And then this is the last video I'm going to do right here. And we're going to get back to the engine components when I get the rest of that stuff in. And watch the engine videos. And then the last video you'll see me doing is when I'm going to be bolting these things together. There will be a video on me firing the engine. Remember, the engine build is on a budget and a low build, high rev race engine for people that don't believe that you can do it. I have a test engine stand. All of that's going to be on documented video so you can see it like I did my others. And you'll watch that video going into the car and stuff like that. And I'm gonna get all the video of me banging gears down the road, and probably on the track too, doing some hairpin turns. I'm going to be doing this in a later date. It's probably going to take another year for me to get this all completed, because I have a lot of other cars I have to work on, other people's stuff too. So watch the videos, ask some questions. I'll do what I can to answer them. I can give you tidbit information, but I can only show you how to do things the best I can, because I'm only by myself videoing things. So bear with me. If you got a lot of questions, just answer. I'll answer them one at a time and only ask one at a time. Very, you know, a lot of stuff is very time consuming and intricate. There's a lot of specs that I don't want to give out in measurements, but if I have to, I can. For anybody that, again, all I can find is Chevy stuff around, and I want to build a Ford, because I already have like 4 or 5 Chevys. I don't need any more, but I only have, you know, I only have 3 or 4 Fords, but I don't have any. I don't have any Miatas, so what the hell? Let's go for it. Chevy transmission, Ford small block, Windsor engine, and a freaking Miata. Let's get it done. Get it right. Okay, that's about it. Have a good day.